Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Ham by Dustin Stevens, narrated by Exie Sands. They call us hard women, as if survival could ever be delicate. Brenna Toohey. They broke the wrong parts of me. They broke my wings and forgot I had claws. Anonymous. The ground absorbs any sound made by my footfalls. Walking heel to toe, I make sure each foot is placed down carefully, the thick bed of pine needles insulating the earth and masking my movements. Moving in a serpentine pattern, I trace a path through the thin underbrush of the forest. This place, one of the few in the world I have ever called home. And right now, this man is here violating that. Not just with his mere presence, but with everything he represents, everybody he is associated with, every intention he has in mind. With every thought, every realization, every moment I am in his presence, I can sense my animosity growing higher. I can feel as it raises my pulse, increases my body temperature, even tightens the grip on the rock in my hand. To shoot this man would be easiest. To simply sight in on the back of his skull and ease back the trigger, knowing from this distance there is no possible way I can miss. But the easiest path right now won't necessarily be the easiest moving forward. And it would damn sure be far, far kinder than this man deserves. Part 1. The Offer. Chapter 1. The last sliver of orange has just slid beneath the western horizon as the ring announcer steps through the ropes. It sends 1,000 shards of shimmering light across the surface of the Pacific Ocean with its last gasps, the sudden absence plunging the world into a state of exaggerated darkness. And just as they always do, the strands of bare bulbs strung high above the ring kick on a moment later, casting a straw-colored pallor over everything below. The aging ring is built on pressure-treated 4x4s buried directly into the sand, spots of blood and assorted detritus dotting the canvas mat. The twin aluminum risers are on either end, both loaded with drunken revelers, their skins painted shades ranging from tomato red to dark tan. Beers in both hands, tobacco juice or sunflower seeds hang from their lips, and the assorted forms of facial hair stuck to their chins. Per usual, the overwhelming majority of onlookers are men, the few women that are mixed in, serving clearly as accompaniment, still dressed in bikini tops from the day, or already in leather, anticipating the night ahead. No in-between. On the east and west ends of the ring are scads of wooden folding chairs, what were once even rows, already a twisted jumble. Housing most of the regulars, they're grouped into random clusters, seats turned so they can see some combination of the sunset, the ring, or each other. Considering that every last one of them had to pay to get in, I'm not sure anybody rightly gives a damn what they look at. Least of all me. Despite the open-air venue, the recent sunset, the faint breeze pushing in from the sea, there is a palpable charge in the air. That familiar buzz that I've known for decades now, that unshakable feeling that seems to reach deep inside, igniting the parts of me I spend most of the week keeping tamped down. For the last hour, the crowd has sat and watched the undercard for the night. Beginning with less than half of what is now on hand, the combination of buckets of beer and the cheap cover charge has managed to pull in enough to fill the bleachers, easily the largest crowd we've had in a while. It also doesn't hurt that the first several bouts turned into little more than backyard brawls, bloody affairs, with over-muscled men that had once been high school athletes and can't let it go, so they come out here to the sand every weekend. Smaller guys that work the fields nearby, carrying resentment for damn near everything in their lives, entering the ring with something to prove. And, of course, a healthy sprinkling of fools that have watched a few too many MMA bouts on television and figured it didn't look that hard. Little more than chum for the crowd, that they have done their part. Sacrificial lambs for the maddened rabble. With each passing bout, I sat in the back and felt the energy rising. Starting low, it worked steadily upward, cresting into a veritable hunger bordering on lust. The feeling so strong I can feel it pushing in from every angle. Goose pimples cover my exposed forearms and calves as I assume my stance in the corner, waiting as the ring announcer steps through the ropes. A cordless microphone in hand, he doesn't pretend to be some sort of Michael Buffer knockoff, showing up in the traditional attire of a tuxedo and polished wingtips. Opting for little more than board shorts and a tank top, the tail of his unbuttoned aloha shirt flaps to either side. No more than a couple hours from the surf. His long hair is sun-bleached and pulled back, a crooked grin on his face. All in all, a look that holds no pretense, neither confirming nor denying the fact that he's a Los Angeles trust fund baby down here hiding from his family and the real world, and all the responsibilities both brings with them. Not that I give a shit. This isn't the place anybody ends up unless they're hiding from something, myself included. "Ladies and gentlemen," he says, his sandals slapping his heels as he saunters to the center of the ring. A quick squawk of feedback through the cheap mic echoes through the speakers, vocal displeasure sounding out from the audience. Pretending not to notice, he pushes on. "Let's hear another round of applause for our last combatants, Charlie Reed and Eric Montrose." Calling the last two guys combatants is something like calling the Grand Canyon a ditch. Both big and beefy, the bout quickly devolved into a couple of gorillas trying to see who could withstand more haymakers. It was like watching 3 rounds of the last 40 seconds of every Rocky Balboa fight. The crowd had loved it. The reception to his request is weak, at best. What clapping there is, accompanied by a healthy smattering of boos. Already the crowd has moved on from the last spectacle, ready for the next in line. A small shower of peanut shells and paper napkins rained down, the items dotting the outer edges of the ring, some even landing within a few inches of my feet. Not that the announcer seems to notice. Even with the top of my head buried into the corner pad, my gaze aimed straight down at the ground, I can imagine the look on his face. One corner of his mouth is rising higher, his grin growing ever more lopsided. He lives for this shit, inciting the masses, feeling like he's some sort of ringmaster in his own personal circus. All bought and paid for with his daddy's money. Not that he or any of us have any delusions about where we are and what we're doing. The last guys beating the hell out of each other just means there are a few more stains on the mat going forward. Pelting the ring with garbage doesn't mean we're going to slow things down to sweep up. It's just that much more crap for me to now roll around in. This isn't Las Vegas, or New York City, or even Rio. The people that have shown up to watch know that. Those of us that step inside the ring damn sure know it. And here we are, in spite of it. Or some might even argue because of it. "All right," the announcer says, a bit of his surfer accent sliding out, making him sound like McConaughey and dazed and confused. Rotating at the waist, he looks to either side before saying, "And with that, I'll get us straight to what we all came here to see tonight." "Ham!" a stray voice calls out. "Ham!" My eyes slide shut. This is the worst part. That damn chant that some drunken idiot always gets started. "Ham!" Ignoring him, the announcer calls, "For tonight's main event, we have one of the most anticipated bouts in Shaky Jake's history." His voice cracks as he walks around the ring, pretending that he's trying to whip them up a bit more, though there's no need. The collective energy has continued to rise, the lack of walls or a roof having no negative effect on the tension brimming in the air. Now, this is about him siphoning off a little piece of things for himself, reminding everybody here who is responsible for all this. Because it has been a whopping 15 minutes since he last pointed it out. "Two women, different in every way," he continues. "One Latina, the other white. One from South America, the other North. One making her Tijuana debut here tonight, the other putting her crown and perfect record on the line." The hype achieves some modest bit of effect, enough to at least push a swell of cheers and applause from the crowd. Again, I hear the same inebriated bastard attempt to get a chant going, calling, "Ham! Ham!" Once more, the announcer ignores him. My time will come. Right now, he's still milking his moment. "In the blue corner," he continues, his voice rising and ebbing. A woman coming to us straight from the underground club circuit of Colombia, standing 6'2" and weighing 160 pounds with a 38-2 record, the Bogota brawler herself, Victoria Rosales. I don't bother moving from my spot in the corner, already knowing exactly what the woman looks like. Her actual physical description enhanced the standard 20% by announcer hyperbole. On a good day, in boots, she might go 6 feet even. Weigh maybe a pound or two above $140. A striated muscle lines her arms and shoulders, but her midsection is a bit softer, free of definition, with small bulges visible above her trunks. Not that any of that is easy to see, most of it obscured by dark ink etched into much of her skin. Beginning around her ear, it wraps down one side of her neck before spreading over her back and eventually making it all the way to her calves. With basic coloring and blurry lines, it's the sort of thing referred to in the States as prison ink, though I don't have enough knowledge of the girl or parlors in Colombia to know if she got hers inside or if that's just how tattoos look down there. Not that it much matters. My lifetime interaction with her is about to come to an abrupt end in about 10 minutes. Perfunctory cheers ring out as a bit more debris lands in the ring. Right now, I imagine she has a fist or two raised into the air, making a small circle, the announcer remaining silent, extending the moment as long as he can. Same cocksure smile on his face. The first few times I was down here, I played the part. I stayed upright in the corner, responding to all the cues, doing what was expected. That was long ago. Long before I came to see that it went the same way every time. That the kid was more interested in playing out his own little fantasy than actually doing justice to the venue or the fighters. Now, I just stay in my corner, wrists draped over the ropes, top of my head pressed into the pad, waiting it out. And her opponent, he eventually pushes out, a woman that you all already know, making her way down from just over the border and standing before you tonight with a perfect 28-0 record, your champion, Ham. Chapter 2. Ham. Like those losers that show up at every ball game, imploring the crowd to start the wave, that lone prick somewhere nearby has finally gotten his wish. The repeated chant rings out, bouncing between the two sides. Set in an even cadence, and one no more than drifts away, floating out toward the sand, before the next comes in right behind it. As far as pacing goes, it is probably a perfect match to the waves depositing themselves onto the beach nearby. One after another, I can feel them pass over my skin as I maintain my position in the corner. With my eyes closed, I imagine to those watching from the outside it might look like I'm deep in prayer, that I'm taking a minute to focus, to find some bit of peace and centering before the bout begins. The reason is much simpler. I don't believe in prayer, or God, or destiny, or anything I can't see with my own eyes and touch with my own hands. I don't believe in much of anything beyond myself and my training. My answer to everyone that dares utter the word faith to me exactly the same. Try seeing half the shit I have in this world, and then explain to me how there could possibly be some sort of greater plan to any of it. What I'm actually doing is watching the entirety of the fight that is about to take place play out in my mind. Blow by blow, I'm working through it, choreographing it in real time, superimposing everything I know into a cohesive sequence. Despite the gross exaggeration from the announcer, the woman across from me is still enormous. I've seen her fight twice before, each confirming that she is a brawling brute that relies on mass and power to overwhelm her opponents. Her strategy is to basically end a fight before it begins. Like some sort of soldier, she marches right into the center of the ring, using her enhanced gravitational pull to lure her opponents in, where she pummels the hell out of them. I have no intention of making that mistake. This isn't a boxing match, and there are no extra points awarded for standing toe-to-toe and letting these people see us slug it out. The objective here is to win, by whatever means necessary. both of which happen to be my specialty. Popping my eyes open, it's as if each of my senses have somehow become enhanced, not to some comic superhero level, but just enough to make me acutely aware of my surroundings. The feel of the cooling ocean air on my skin, the smell of beer and meat grilling nearby, the harsh yellow glow of the overhead lights bathing everything in an unnatural hue. The calls of the crowd, the damn chant continuing, even as I now conspicuously push it away, the sound little more than a buzz in the background. Rising to full height, I turn and for the first time see my opponent standing across from me. 2 inches taller than I am, she has a good 20 pounds on me, the last few years having stripped away any extra weight that my previous life up north might have allowed. The announcer was right. We are about as different as 2 women can be. The most obvious examples of this are easy to see. Her being a bit pudgy, myself all planes and angles, ridges and sinew bulging out. Her Latina heritage gives her skin an amber glow, whereas my Caucasian birth has been beaten back by years of exposure to the sun, the result a mahogany sheen and a texture resembling leather. Her hair is long and dark, pulled into a simple ponytail. My blonde hair has been shaved into a mohawk the width of my brow, the sides buzzed to a 1/4 inch, the top woven into a braid running halfway down my back. Electric pulses run the length of my body, the faint sound of the chanting still present on the periphery of my consciousness. The combination buoys me, making it impossible to stand still. Barely realizing it, I bounce from one foot to the other, feet barely touching down before pushing me up into the air again. Seeing my movement, Rosales begins to pummel the air with heavy punches, silently challenging me into her vision of a gladiator battle. Not a chance. But she's welcome to go right ahead and wear herself out over there. Having seen similar situations play out before, the ring announcer stifles a smile. Giving me a wink, he climbs from the ring, sliding out between the second and third ropes and dropping to the sand below. In his place, the same man that's been overseeing the ring since I first showed up almost 3 years ago appears. In his 40s, his hair is buzzed a uniform length all the way around, bits of salt popping up at the temples. Thick forearms and a mangled nose suggest he was once a fighter himself. Dressed in a plain white t-shirt, he is again forced to wear the black bow tie the kid outside demands, one more tiny unnecessary detail added to the mix. Like me, I imagine the only reasons he's here are that the place doesn't ask questions and always pays in cash. Except for the ridiculous bow tie they make him wear, he is all business as he steps into the center of the ring. Rotating his head at the neck, he extends a hand to either side. Beginning with Rosales, he asks, "Blue corner ready?" A dip of the chin is the sole response, the shadow boxing coming to a momentary break. "Red corner, are you ready?" the referee asks, casting his hound dog eyes my way. I know it's standard, the same thing that every referee in every form of combat sport in the world has to ask, but it seems painfully stupid to me. No fighter ever steps through the ropes without knowing exactly what can happen. And they damn sure don't face that without being ready. My weight continues to shift from side to side, the tail of my braids slapping lightly against my exposed shoulder blades as I nod in response. Bringing his hands together before him, the man pauses, just briefly. The chanting mercifully dies away, my weight balancing evenly on the balls of my feet. Ready doesn't begin to describe what I'm feeling right now. Chapter 3. 140 miles north of Shaky Jake's, Los Angeles Police Department Second Lieutenant Jensen Spears sits staring down into his glass. Hunched over in his seat, both forearms rest on the lacquered bar, most of his weight pressed atop them. A deep crease bisects his brow, his vision blurred as he stares down at the cheap whiskey and the melting ice cubes beneath him. This isn't where he's supposed to be. Tonight is supposed to be a celebration, another victory lap in what seems to have been an unending parade for him and his partner, and by extension their unit, over the better part of the last year. Together, they're all supposed to be sitting in one of the favored watering holes of the department. Regardless what attire those in attendance wore, there would be no doubt that every last person was on the force. Men and women crammed in like sardines, everybody smiling. As well they should be. The bust that he and his partner had orchestrated 4 nights prior was enormous. It was the sort of thing that made headlines and won medals. Turned heads at the state legislature, affected how future funding was allocated. Which was the point. When the Special Investigations Team was first established within the Gang and Narcotics Division, the goal was to separate out those major offenses that were perpetrated in the name of drug violence, to parse them off from other major crimes, where they were fast becoming overshadowed by the rapidly increasing murder rate in the city. Tough to care much about who's moving new product when on any given corner people are being gunned down. For the first few months, the unit had done little but paperwork, a daily onslaught of requisition forms for everything from desk chairs to office supplies. Just the 2 of them, perched on the very case files they were trying to work, squirreled away in a closet deep in the underbelly of the Hollenbeck precinct house. About a year ago, the needle had started to move. They got their first bust, a modest cocaine sting that netted several kilos and a few thousand in cash. Shortly thereafter, heroin. The big get, the one that finally started shifting opinions on their project, came in the form of more than $5 million worth of fentanyl, the latest buzzword in the nationally burgeoning opioid epidemic. People took notice. Spears was promoted from first lieutenant to second. The clouds opened up, and mythical things he'd only heard about, such as discretionary funds, became available. They were given space on the 2nd floor, replete with desks and even windows. A receptionist to answer the phone and help file the tremendous volume of paper they were pushing through. A second, and then a third, team to work with them. For 10 solid months, life had been a whirlwind. An unending stream of leads and arrests, of responding to information requests from the brass downtown at headquarters, and the press asking for a few minutes of their time. For a man that had cut his teeth working the streets in the West Hollywood precinct, it had been the proverbial dream come true. A shift away from investigating overdosing starlets to getting out and actually working in from the back end. Focusing on the how instead of always the why. "You still good down here?" the barkeep asks, pulling Spears' attention up. A middle-aged woman with curly auburn hair, and she smiles his way. Leaning forward, she presses her palms against the edge of the bar, her tricep muscles flexing slightly beneath the sleeves of her black t-shirt, the scoop neck hanging just low enough to show a tiny bit of cleavage. As if a woman isn't already the reason Spears is now hiding in this bar. Lifting his drink, Spears cradles it in both hands, tapping the underside of his wedding band against the side of his glass. "No thanks," he replied, forcing a smile. "All set here." Shoving herself upright, a bit of the congeniality the barkeep had just a moment before dissipates. The corners of her mouth turn downward as she glances to the drink and the espoused hand holding it. "One of those nights, huh?" "Seen your share, I'm sure," Spears replies. "Ha!" the woman replies, her head rocking back slightly. "You should stop by on Tuesdays. There's a support group and everything." Feigning a laugh, Spears watches as she moves off in the other direction before flicking a disinterested gaze up toward the television behind the bar. For a moment, he considers the college football game. The local power conference school kicking the holy hell out of a no-name early season opponent. Leaving it at that, he returns his focus to the drink in his hand, adding the conversation to the tangle of things working across his mind. As he does so, a thought occurs to him, a smirk lifting back one corner of his mouth. Regardless what this woman thinks she might have seen, he can guarantee it is nothing like this. Chapter 4. The ring announcer's name is Brent Jacobson, though he insists on going by the name Jake. Probably some nickname one of the cool kids in high school gave him, and he's clung to ever since, even slapping the moniker on the establishment we're now in. Reclined behind a desk in the back room of the place, the Aloha shirt is stripped off, as are the sandals. Bare feet with sand clinging to calloused heels are propped on the corner of the desk. An elbow rests on the arm of his chair, his hand directly above it, clutching a hand-rolled cigar. Based on the sweet smell of the smoke hovering in the air, barely shoved around by the 3 paddles of the fan above, I'd guess it is Cuban. At least $100, if not more. In the corner sits the referee, the bow tie gone, the white t-shirt as well. In its place is nothing but bare torso, a series of lash scars crossing over it, intimating at a past life spent in the fields. Like me, he is openly sweating, the overhead light shining off his skin. "Thanks for making it go to the second tonight," Jake says, a faint smile on his face. "Increased the house's take by quite a bit." It's been half an hour since the fight ended, the crowd having drifted away from the makeshift stadium while I showered and changed, most headed inside to the bar. A cacophony of noise can be heard through the wall, promising another typical Saturday night. My thumbs hooked into the back pockets of my jeans, I reply, "You promised me $1,000 if I drug it out." The smile fades only slightly as Jake flicks his eyes to the referee. "You didn't have to break her arm." "I know. I didn't want to, but she wouldn't tap." Whether I had to or not, I don't really care. I just didn't want to have to fall asleep tonight with the sound of her humorous snapping still echoing through my head. "I even told her to tap," the referee says, his English so accented it is barely understandable. "Thought she could make the bell." There was no way she was making the bell and pushing it to the third round. Not with almost a minute to go and me having the Kimura lock on tight. She was lucky it had gone on as long as it did. Her movements so slow and stilted, I practically had to drag her ass into the second round. If it had gone to the third, she likely would have passed out from lack of oxygen. "You promised me $1,000, I repeat, my tone and the look on my face both letting him know this is a conversation that doesn't need to be taking place. We aren't friends, and I have no interest in becoming as much. I am here to get paid and then get on the road." "That I did," Jake replies. Reaching into the top drawer of his desk, he takes out a roll of bills held together by a rubber band, doubled over. Tossing it my way, I raise my hands to catch it just before it hits my chest. Peeling back the top corner, I rifle through a series of 50s and 100s, all in American currency. "It's all there," Jake says, returning to his cigar. "I'm no fool." The truth in that is debatable, though on this particular topic, he is right. Not once has he ever tried to stiff me, that being one of the few reasons I keep making my way back. For all the kids' faults, knowing how and when to pay certainly aren't among them, at least not with me. The reason for that left open to speculation. "Maybe next time get me to the third," he says. "Maybe next time get me a better fighter to go up against," I reply, tucking the wad of bills into the front of my jeans. A small lump presses against the top of my thigh as I wrench my hand free, flicking my middle and forefinger up in a slight wave. I'm halfway to the door before his voice calls me back. "Well, no, wait," Jake replies, dropping his feet to the floor and leaning forward. Resting his elbows atop the desk, he asks, "Speaking of that, when do you think we can expect you again?" Flicking his gaze to the referee, he adds, "I can promise you a G again. Gate goes up at least that much every time you step inside." $1,000 for 15 minutes work is good money. It's not like I'm not always training anyway, so getting paid for it is a nice bonus. At the same time, letting anybody think they can control me with something so trivial is something I will not allow. Pretending to consider it for just a moment, my response is cut short by my phone vibrating in my back pocket. A single pulse, and nothing more. Even without sliding it out or bothering to check the screen, I know exactly what it means. And it isn't good. I've got to go. Chapter 5. The car isn't a cruiser, but that makes it no less conspicuous. Parked along the curb outside of some bar named On Tap, the paint job is black, the roof adorned with 3 antennas of varying heights. The frame of the body is square, the tires thick and durable. To anybody that's spent even a couple of years in East Los Angeles, it is obvious at a glance that the driver is law enforcement. For someone that has spent his entire life there, like Hector Lima, it is almost an insult, as glaring as a neon billboard. "You sure that's him?" Baco asks from behind the steering wheel. Parked on the opposite side of the street from the unmarked sedan, he lowers his head a few inches to get a better view. A few inches away, Lima doesn't bother. He'd know the vehicle anywhere, no matter how many times they tried to swap out the license plates. "Positive," Lima says. You want me to go with you? Baco asks. Returning to upright, he glances over to Lima.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?